Hello Soberinos and welcome to this week's Friday Fix. Today I'm talking to you about the importance of motivation to stop drinking, motivation to stay sober. I can't stress the importance of keeping your motivation levels topped up high enough. There's lots of good reasons why motivation is so important, but I just want to touch on a couple. If you think about it, when you first decide that you want to stop drinking, something is motivating you. You are motivated by something, whether that is something that you want to avoid, what we call the avoidance, pain avoidance, or the avoidance of something that you no longer want. So for instance, for me, if I think about my own situation, when I first decided to stop drinking, my motivation was that I wanted to stop the shame. I wanted to stop the guilt. I wanted to stop that foggy, hungover, lethargic, not firing on all cylinders feeling. I wanted to stop the embarrassment. I wanted to stop the fear. The fear was something that was driving me. I was terrified of what I was doing to my body. I was terrified of what I was doing to my mind. I was terrified of the road that I was on and where that was going to lead me, where that was going to end up. So for me, my motivation to stop drinking came partly from wanting to avoid the pain that drinking was giving me. And for some people, and for me this was also partly true, motivation comes from wanting to gain something in your life. So for me, when I think about my own situation, partly me wanting to get sober was driven by wanting to lead a better life, wanting to be a better version of me, wanting to achieve more, wanting to live a healthier life, wanting to be fresh-headed, wanting to be hangover free, wanting to be like other people that I saw around me who were bright and breezy on a Sunday morning, going out and enjoying walks with their families. People just going about their everyday business. I used to watch those people and I used to be so envious that they weren't struggling their way through a hungover fog, that they could be out of bed at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning walking a dog. I used to watch these people and I used to want that. I used to think it was impossible for me to have that, but I used to want that. And that was partly my motivation. So in terms of what motivates us to want to stop drinking, it's a combination of two things. It's a combination of wanting to avoid some kind of pain and wanting to gain some kind of benefit or reward. And you will know what it was that drove you or motivated you to want to stop drinking in the first place. So often when we stop drinking and we first start learning to live our lives sober and we start practicing and we start doing it, our motivation levels can be quite high because we've come from this space where something has left us really highly motivated to stop drinking and to live our lives sober. So we can often start with these really high levels of motivation. I'm going to be referring to my notes here just to make sure that I don't miss anything. Then what happens is, as we're learning, as we're practicing, as we're navigating our lives newly sober, is that our motivation levels can start dropping. They can start falling. Because what happens is we start to face challenges. We start to struggle. The reality of living our lives sober can set in and can leave us feeling kind of bleak. We might be holding on to some limiting beliefs, whether consciously or unconsciously, about what living life sober is like. And some of those limiting beliefs might be quite negative. Some people believe all sorts of things about living their lives sober, like every day is a struggle, like this is some kind of disease that's never going to go away. It's always going to be with you. Like living your life sober is like walking up a down escalator. Like you're constantly having to fight, you're constantly having to struggle. Some people believe that living your life sober, you have to be constantly vigilant and never get complacent, because there's always going to be an urge or a trigger around the corner, and you can't ever relax. You always have to be vigilant and watchful, because that slippery slope could be just around the corner. Now, there's a whole host of different beliefs that you can hold about living your life sober. And if some of those beliefs are quite unhelpful or unhealthy or negative or limiting in some way, then of course, as you start to navigate your way through your sober life, you could very easily lose motivation, because it seems like if life's going to be a never-ending struggle, if you're always having to be vigilant, if you're always having to be watchful, if you're always having to kind of guard against some kind of, attack or difficulty or trigger that's going to be around the corner, that's not a particularly attractive vision of what living your life sober is going to be like. So of course, if that's what you believe about sober living, it's not going to help your motivation levels. Your motivation levels are going to get lower. So as you face challenges, as you face struggles, as you perhaps, for some people, face some of these limiting beliefs, motivation levels can start to drop. The reality sets in. Also, some people might believe things about living life sober that their life is going to be, and certainly this was true for me when I first started doing it, that your life is going to be boring, that you're never going to have any fun, you're not going to be confident enough to socialize, that all that exuberance, all that joy, all that lack of inhibition, all that fun is just not going to exist without alcohol. Those beliefs, by the way, are completely false. I believed them to be true when I first stopped drinking, and they are completely false. And anybody who has stopped drinking in a healthy way and who is living their lives sober in a healthy, happy and liberating way will tell you the same, that these beliefs are not true. They are simply beliefs that you've been holding, and you don't have to believe them anymore. They're not true. Living your life sober can be so liberating and so joyful that actually you bring more joy, you bring more happiness, you bring more freedom, you bring a better version of you into the world when you are living your life sober. And so your socializing is better. Your fun is better. You have more fun. So there are a lot of limiting beliefs that we can hold about living our life sober that just aren't true. So it's important to bear that in mind. But let me get back on track. So your motivation can dip in the early days, and in fact even ongoing, maybe through the first year or even two of living your life sober. Sometimes our motivation levels can dip. If that motivation dipping leads to a slip up and leads to a bit of a blip where you go back to drinking again, that can be even more demotivating and can bring your motivation levels for living your life sober even lower, because what that can do is it can add to an unhelpful and limiting belief that you just can't do this. This is impossible for you. That, it can lead to, and I certainly had this in the past, to feeling like a bit of a failure, that this is impossible for me, that I can't do this. And so if I'm believing things like that, that can bring my motivation for living my life sober to rock bottom. That I just, if I'm believing I just can't do it, it's impossible for me. So of course my motivation for even attempting to do it is going to be very low. So often we can start getting sober, we can stop drinking and we can start getting sober with high motivation because something has prompted us to be really super motivated to stop drinking and to live our lives sober. Then gradually different things can start chipping away at those motivation levels, and we can end up with very low motivation for living our life sober. The point I want to make in today's Friday Fix is that it's really super important to keep proactively boosting your motivation levels and topping them up again, keeping them as topped up, as high as you possibly can. Because when your motivation for living your life sober is topped up high, when you do face struggles, if you do face some limiting beliefs or a triggering situation or a challenging situation, when your motivation levels are topped up high, if they dip a bit through that struggle or that challenge, it's much easier to pick them back up again if you've been sort of close to the top level. They dip a bit, you bring them back up again. If you've allowed your motivation levels to dip right down to the bottom, and then you face a struggle or a challenge or a limiting belief that gets in your way, you've kind of got nowhere to go. They're at rock bottom. So you want to keep your motivation levels topped up as high as they can be. Not only does that help you through the struggles and challenges, but it also helps you to stay positive and to stay feeling good generally about things. So the good news is that there are ways to keep your motivation levels topped up high. One of those ways is to simply keep paying attention to, keep noticing the benefits to you, the gains that you benefit from when you're living your life sober. Not only paying attention to them and noticing them, but recording them in some way as well. The more that we notice these benefits and gains to us, even if they become kind of run of the mill, and they become quite ordinary, like waking up on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock without a hangover and being able to go to the shops and get your shopping done, being able to go and walk the dog, being able to do a workout, being able to have a healthy breakfast, whatever it might be that's kind of become routine, that is a reason that's something to celebrate, that's something to acknowledge, something to notice and something to celebrate. Because in noticing and celebrating all of the gains and the benefits, we are keeping our motivation for staying sober consciously at the front of our minds, and we're keeping our motivation levels topped up high. So that's one way you can do it. There are lots of other ways which I share in the guidance program. So on the Go Get Sober website, if you sign up for a membership, if you're not already signed up for a membership, there are lots and lots of, especially in Module 1, Step 1 through to 8, I think just about every single one of those steps in Module 1 is about how to keep your motivation levels topped up high. So if you're not already a member, get along to the Go Get Sober website, sign up for a membership. It's super cheap and you can cancel at any time, and you get access to all sorts of tips, strategies, tools and techniques that help you to stay motivated and to stay positive about living your life sober. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I am super excited about is the new resource for Go Get Sober guidance members, is the weekly workshops that are starting next Thursday, the 7th of April 2022. The weekly workshops are a new resource for Go Get Sober guidance members, and they are an opportunity not only for us to put faces to names and to interact with each other live in real time and to gain all of that sense of belonging, that sense of community, that sense of strength and support and encouragement from one another, but they are also an opportunity to explore in more detail some of the techniques and resources within the guidance program. And the one that is happening, the first of our Super Sober Spring 2022, which I'm running a series of 4 workshops throughout April, starting on the 7th. And it's all going to be about how to launch ourselves into spring with all of these tools at our disposal. And so the first one is going to be Module 1, Step 1, which is something called the motivation questions. And these are all about how to keep those motivation levels topped up high and how to use the questions in an empowering way that gives you control over your life. And one of the benefits and the bonuses to these questions is that even if you're someone who's relatively confident with living your life sober, you can apply these motivation questions to any aspect of your life that you want to improve or change. Because they are strategies that you can use in any way, in any situation, in any context. So they're a really valuable resource for anyone who wants to make some kind of change or some kind of improvement to their life. So the first of our new weekly workshops is happening next Thursday, 7th of April, 7 o'clock in the evening, UK time. So if you're not in the UK, if you're somewhere else in the wide, wonderful world of ours, you will need to check out a time converter to see what time that is for you. And if you are a guidance member, you will be welcome to join us for our weekly workshop, all about keeping your motivation topped up high. If you'd like to join us and you haven't already signed up, if you send me an email to jo@gogetsober.com, I will reply to you and I'll make sure you get on my list. And I will make sure that you receive an invitation to our live interactive workshop. And I can't wait to see you there. It's going to be fabulous to see you all there. So that is today's Friday Fix, the importance of keeping your motivation topped up high and celebrating, acknowledging, noticing all of the wins, all of the gains, all of the benefits to you of living your life sober. And if you want some extra information and support and strategies on how to keep your motivation levels topped up high, come along to the Go Get Sober website, sign up to the guidance membership and join us for our weekly workshops, the first one of which is next week. And I will so look forward to seeing you there. I will catch up with you again in tomorrow's Saturday Share, but in the meantime, let's go get sober together. Bye for now.